We are here for a super exciting clash between Richard Rapport, who is on your frame, playing with the white pieces, against none other than Magnus Carlsen. When these two players face off against each other, we get a game that is filled with so many ideas, so many themes, so many concepts, so much of fight, because both of them love to play exciting chess. While both of them pour water for themselves, get ready for this encounter, which is 10 minutes plus 10 seconds increment here in Paris, freestyle chess. Richard gets off his jacket. This is going to be super exciting. Magnus Carlsen has the black pieces, white pieces for Richard Rapport. The players are ready. We are about to begin.
You may start. Good luck.
And off we go. A handshake, and Richard looks at the pieces. This is freestyle chess. The pieces are scrambled on the back rank, and he opens with f4, opening up the bishop and the bishop here. Magnus also adjusts his pieces. The players get 10 minutes before the game to look at the position and try to understand what they want to do. And so definitely both of them have tried to think of the position along with some players. And you can see here how white has gotten space and also opened up his queen and bishop. Magnus goes g5, opening up his own bishop here. f5, gaining space. d4, limiting the queen. This is all part of preparation before the game, so the players blitz out their moves. Knight comes out to a3 for Richard. He's looking at the c4 square for his knight, and the bishop will come here. White's position looks nice, and Magnus very quickly trades off this bishop. That's a good idea because the white bishop was very powerful. Bishop goes to g3. And now the knight comes out to d7. Slowly and steadily, the contours of this position are being formed. Knight comes to c4. It's looking good. It can't come to e5 because that square is guarded, but it could go to a5. Magnus plays his knight to b6, offering a trade. This would be a very helpful trade for black as it would open up the rook. And Richard now plays his knight to a5. Very nice move, looking at the bishop and the pawn on b7. Magnus chops off the bishop. Queen takes, attacking the pawn on b7. The rook comes to d5, attacking the knight. And that's a very cool move. It also prevents the mate on b7. Richard comes back to b3. And it feels like black's position is getting better. The reason for that is, in freestyle chess, what you need to look at is how active are each of the pieces on the board. And you will see that this knight is doing well, the other knight is coming here, the bishop is okay, the queen can move into the game at any point. Knight goes to a6. So Magnus is looking at the b4 square, maybe also at the c5 square. And he goes e4. That's a good move by Richard. The rook comes back to d8. And now maybe you could even push further with e5, blocking this bishop. Not so easy to open it up. He goes d3, being very solid. And black could play e5 now to take back the space. But Magnus goes knight to b4. It's difficult to dislodge the knight from here. It's well positioned. And Richard goes knight d2. Queen comes to e8. You can see here how these pieces are attacking the a4 pawn. The king looks a bit unsafe, but that's short castling there. It's actually called g-side castling here. And short castling, if you take the pawn, there is rook a c1, and look at this bishop and rook combining here. So you can't take it. Magnus gets super greedy and takes these pawns. But this is getting very risky because Richard brings his knight out. He's defending the b2 pawn. This bishop is an absolute monster on the diagonal. And the queen comes in. And now what's the next move that we can play? He goes queen g2. He's bringing his queen into the game. He defends the c2 pawn. The b2 is already defended. But Magnus has a tactic. He takes on d3. If you take with the pawn, he's going to take the knight. The game is heating up, guys. This is actually, is Magnus's sacrifice good? Well, turns out actually white is the one who is in the driver's seat. But how exactly to continue? CD3, right move. Queen takes B3. And now Rook FC1 is an excellent move defending the knight. He plays it. You can't take the pawn. Your knight is hanging here. There's also knight B6 check. Incredible with C7 hanging. So Rook FC1 played by Richard. Magnus comes back, attacks the D3 pawn. The best move now is Rook A3, attacking and defending, but he goes Knight D2, also nice. You can't take on D3, C5 is hanging. Wow, white is here playing amazingly well. And Magnus has to be very careful. He has 4 minutes, Richard has only 30 seconds. Queen B5 played by Magnus, defending, he plays B4. What a move here. Amazing move. You can't take with the pawn, the rook is hanging. You can't move the knight, C7 is in trouble. What do? You take with the queen, but that opens up another file. Richard Rapport showing his class here, showing why he's considered to be one of the greatest creative players on the planet. Queen B4 now, Rook A B1 or Rook C4, doubling on the C file. He goes Rook A B1. Magnus plays his queen to A3. Richard has a draw here. He can go Rook A1, Rook B1 and take the draw. Goes Rook A1, attacks the queen. It's just a draw, or is white going to try for more? The bar suggests you should try for more, but Richard has only 44 seconds on the clock, and sitting opposite him is Magnus Carlsen. You really feel the jitters here, and that's why he's repeating. But maybe it's just to gain one more 10 seconds and then he will change. Lot of excitement here. Not sure. Oh, he changes it. What a move. If knight takes b3, there is rook takes c7 check, king b8, and rook comes back with a discovered check, and then b3 falls. So Magnus can't take it. He has to go back. He has to go back to a6. There's nothing else. He goes back. And then Richard pushes his pawn, opening up the queen along with the rook here. Oh my goodness. How is Magnus even going to survive this? Rook a7, defending that pawn. And now maybe e6, opening up this diagonal, just keep this bishop open. He goes queen d2. That's also not a bad idea. b6 is the best move because then the rook defends the c7 pawn. Magnus has 1 minute 18 seconds to figure out his next move here. He goes a4, a blunder. There is knight d4, rook d4 and rook c3 trapping the queen. That's a little difficult to see. But can he see it? Can Richard Rapport see this tactic? He will simply be winning then. No, he misses it. He goes queen a5. And the point is you can't take here. The queen is hanging. You can't take with the queen, of course. And you're threatening e6 with more attackers on this square. The only defensive move for black is e6. To block the e5 pawn from moving and then make this bishop passive. It's a tough move for Magnus, but he has to find it in 1 minute 11 seconds. If he can't do it, he's losing this game. He's sure to lose it. You can see Magnus there totally focused, using all the time that is left for him. And pushes the pawn to e6. Amazing move. Finds it. It's now a fight. Full-fledged fight here. Richard takes on e6. Pawn takes back. This knight is not hanging. You don't need to move it. And boom! Rook sack. Wow! What a move there. He takes back. And then he takes the rook again here. Queen takes a7. Very, very interesting stuff happening here. He's trying to get in, but Magnus's knight is protecting that square. Queen a2, attacking the rook. And the knight, the rook moves. Now can we pick up the knight? Can we pick up with the pawn? Whoa, there are too many options here. He takes with the queen. Queen c5, threatening mate in one. Rook d7 defense, check. Rook goes back. Queen comes back. Oh, it's a draw now. This is a draw. You can't protect this knight in any other way. You have to come up. And that is unfortunate. Oh, he gives up the queen. What? Magnus Carlsen does not want to repeat. He even gives up his queen on c3. Insane. This is just brilliant. I mean, the fighting spirit is brilliant. White's position is fine. The position looks roundabout equal. Black has a rook and a knight. and a pawn. Wow. For the queen, the a pawn, rook d5, excellent move. Bishop b6 should be played, giving up the e5 pawn, but getting the bishop activated. What is Richard going to do? He goes queen a3. Maybe he wants to get in from here. b5 played. d4 protecting here, but then the bishop is passive. And Magnus comes back. He's now, I think, going for bishop f8 and trying to promote his queenside pawns. It's too difficult to move them. But look at the fighting spirit of Magnus Carlsen. He could have taken the draw there. Queen c1 played. And now he's maybe just king b7, getting the king out of that pin. Yeah, getting the knight here into the game. King b7. Takes the pawn on g5. And now the rook is hanging. You need to move the rook. But there's an incredible move a3. But it's very difficult to find with just 45 seconds. If you take the rook, a2, and the queen cannot be stopped. Can Magnus find it? Look at Magnus's expression there. He's like, what? Is a2 possible? He tries to think here. Whoa, a3, and look at Richard. He goes back in his chair. He also is stunned by this. He doesn't have more time. 26 seconds, takes the queen, a2. The pawn is queening, king g2, makes a queen. Incredible, he's from being a queen down. Magnus is now a piece up. Wow. What a turnaround here. And it's actually quite an amazing game. High quality. It's no blunders or something. Queen d7. Attacking the bishop now. The bishop needs to be protected. The conversion is not easy. Because firstly, white has an extra pawn for a piece. He goes bishop h6. You're going to lose this pawn as well on h7. And then these two pawns will be quite strong. He takes on h7. Queen c1, defending the bishop. d5, opening up stuff here. And the e-pawn could also rush down. Oh my goodness. How do you keep all of these tactics in check? e6, pawn is rushing. Whoa. What is Magnus to do? He goes queen f4. Can we even push e7 here? But then queen g4 falls with a check. He does push e7. Wow. Fearless. Magnus goes check. Queen takes queen. Pawn takes. And now the knight defends the queening square. I think Magnus had to assess that position well, whether to trade the queens or not. But his endgame understanding, his intuition is so powerful. He can just sense it. And he was right. This endgame is winning for black. But it doesn't look so easy because you see white pawns are moving here. The king could come in. The b pawn, even if it moves forward, it can be stopped at some time. King d7, look at this. He's come in here, king to d7, attacking this pawn on e7. But is h6 a problem here? h6 pushed. Bishop goes to c3. Now can we go g6? g7. Aha. So simple. Richard goes bishop c5, protecting the pawn. I guess it's time for the knight to enter the game, knight e6. Magnus playing calmly here because he knows that the position is full of landmines. If you go g6, there's knight f4 check. I pick up this. Oh, anyway goes g6. Can we simply not give a check and pick up that pawn? Magnus is thinking his only move. Yeah, he gives a check. King f2. Takes the pawn. King e3. He's now losing this pawn. That was perhaps Richard's idea, to activate the king. There's no way to defend the e4 pawn. And now you have to be super focused and calculated. He goes b4. Takes on e4. b3. King comes back. Maybe even b2. Pushing forward. But no, b2 is actually a blunder. Because then later on, this pawn will fall. So he finds the best move. Again, this understanding that you need to keep the pawn on b3 so that it cannot be attacked by this bishop is super. Super. And look at how this pawn controls this square. The bishop controls these squares. The king cannot come near it. Now all that remains is to pick up this pawn and win. Knight takes e7. Well, here anyway king d2 is played. Magnus is thinking about what his next move should be. He has 50 seconds. He takes the pawn, knight e7. Richard comes back to c1. Still some technical work to be done. Imagine a scenario where white is able to give up his bishop for the pawn. There would be a bishop-knight mate that Magnus has to show. I would not even in my wildest dream imagine Magnus to have any bit of problem executing that. He would do it even blindfolded or if woken up from sleep at any point. But still, is it possible to queen this pawn? Magnus is bringing in his knight. He just stops this bishop b2 idea. What a beautiful one. This is amazing play by Magnus, because if bishop b2 takes, king takes, it would have been a draw. So again, very alert to bring the knight quickly into the game. h7 played. But now everything's under control. Now bring the king in. Tuck, tuck, tuck. But maybe there's something else that you could do. Yeah, he brings the king in, king e6. And now Richard has to find some final tricks perhaps. Imagine this position, you go bishop b2, he takes with the bishop, it's stalemate. Oh, bishop e7, king e7, stalemate. Don't take the bishop, Magnus. It's too easy for Magnus. He won't fall for it. King f7. Bishop f6 would have been incredible move. But king f6 comes and then you have a square for the king. So he goes bishop d8, king g6. Magnus now planning to take this pawn with his king. He goes bishop a5, takes the pawn, bishop c3, final trick, taking the bishop ends in stalemate, goes bishop g7 and Richard resigns. What a game. Look at Magnus's expression. Look at Richard Rapport there with a smile on his face. They both know they have played an amazing game of chess. Let's hear them talk to each other and see what they have to discuss.